Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I am so excited that you guys are joining me live. We are running live today, and we're going to talk about some exciting changes and updates with Adobe Express. So, if you've taken any of my courses on LinkedIn Learning, think of this as a really great update that we're going to do in this masterclass while I get my course updated. So, I am excited to share some really great information with you over here. And if you miss the live, don't worry, this is going to be recorded and you'll be able to access this later. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, let's talk about how you can unleash your creativity with the latest in Adobe Express. A little bit about me, if you're not familiar, if this is the first time hearing about me, I'm Nicte Cuevas. I'm a bilingual brand strategist and designer. I'm a top voice on LinkedIn for design, and I'm also a proud Adobe Express ambassador. I've actually been working with the team since I believe early 2017, since the old days when it used to be called Adobe Post, then Adobe Spark. So I've been really well versed in the world of Adobe Express, and I'm so excited to bring some insight for you. As far as what I do, I have a company called Nicte Creative Design, and we connect color, cultura, and design to a purpose-driven brand strategy. Now, I really want to know, for those of you guys that are watching across our streams, is how do you feel about production work? How does it steal your joy? Does it make you feel happy? Throw an emoji there if you just love doing production work that just makes you waste your time. I'm pretty sure that no one enjoys doing this production work. That really just wastes time, especially nowadays when we are just pulled in so many directions. We want to be able to do things quicker and more efficiently. Now, what's another thing that I'm kind of curious is, do you like seeing your team create off brand content? So let's say you invest so much time in creating content and then they create something that's completely off brand, or they go and create new templates that are really not aligned with what you created. And sometimes it's because of a lack of understanding the software. For instance, you might give them a file in Illustrator, but they're not really well versed in Illustrator, and so they can find it a little bit overwhelming, so they'll go and create it somewhere else. This is where Adobe Express is super powerful because it's going to help you prevent all these situations. Here's some examples of brands that we've built for our clients in different realms. We've got an HVAC air conditioning company in San Antonio. We've got Yaya Wellness, which is a health and tea company, and we've got various others. And these are just examples of things that we've been able to build using the pro tools like Illustrator and Adobe Express to create their brand identity kit, where our clients can manage their brand on their own as we create templates for them. So let's talk a little bit about what's new in Adobe Express. It's an all-in-one editing tool, and it's going to be super powerful because you don't need to jump onto different apps to create things. It's all synced. And what I mean by this is that you're able to pull files from Illustrator, Photoshop, and really link them using Creative Cloud libraries. And that also elevates your brand kit management, which we'll talk about today. You'll also be able to do a lot more with Adobe Express. You have Adobe Firefly, generative AI, which is really helpful for creating content and how we can get a lot more creative, make quick edits to our images if we want to change our hair color, for instance, or remove some things from our clothing. We might have had earring missing. We could add an earring. We can get really creative with Firefly inside Adobe Express. We also have animations that we can add, which are very easy. And we have music and video assets. And what's really great is that even with the free version of Adobe Express, you'll be able to use these assets. There's a lot of free assets that you can use from Adobe Stock that are embedded inside Adobe Express. So this is really, really helpful. And of course, if you do have the premium subscription, or if you have the Creative Cloud subscription, Adobe Express is included in your subscription, so you'd have access to all of these for free. You also have add-ons, and we'll cover some of my favorite add-ons, which are really hidden gems that I highly recommend. Live team collaboration. You can collaborate with others or make edits at the same time, and you don't need to go back and forth emailing each other. The newest file revision number 5678. You guys, I'm sure, can relate to that. And with the Creative Cloud integration, meaning we can use Creative Cloud libraries and everything's in sync, you're able to really just maximize your workflow, again, being this all in one editor that Adobe Express provides for us. You also have linked assets, which we'll talk about when it comes to using your Adobe Express files along with other Creative Cloud libraries. This will be really helpful for you to take a look at. And what else do we have? We also have organized library folders. I'm going to share with you guys a little hack that will take you beyond what we are normally able to do inside the brand kit for Adobe Express. And that's really going to help you create folders inside your brand kit so that you can have optimal brand management organization. So now let's jump into the fun stuff, which is the demo time, which really that's more of the fun time where we're kind of go in and look at the Adobe Express. So let's jump on and go into Adobe Express. And let me bring this up. All right, so here we have let's go to the home screen so that you guys can get a little familiar. So what we want to start with today is if you are fairly new to Adobe Express, I'm going to give a little bit of an update of what Adobe Express looks like right now with the new interface. The team is continually making improvements. And for those of you guys that were using the old Adobe Express interface and have seen some changes within the new one, I do want to share that I've learned this from working with the team. They essentially had to rebuild from the ground up. So what might have worked in the old platform is slightly different in this new one, but this one is like to the 10-time power of what the old one was able to do. So there are a lot of things that the team is continually working on to bring on to this new Adobe Express, but it just works so much better. So here we have our interface. As you scroll, you see an option here for all the generative AI content that we can create. You have quick actions, which quick actions are really great. I'm going to go click on view all so you can see all of the ones that you can do. You can have some for social media, for videos. You can resize videos, trim videos. Remember how I mentioned this is an all-in-one editor? This is really helpful for you to not have to jump from app to app. Or if you're not too comfortable with using some of the more heavy pro tools that require a lot more time to learn, or even just are a little slower sometimes, Adobe Express really cuts down on that time and you're able to use them here. You can create content for marketing, your QR code, resize video, convert to GIFs, use AI, text to image, text effects. There is so much that we cannot cover this in this masterclass in just one go, but I really did want to bring that to your attention. There's also this fun animate from audio, which is if you have little ones like I do, this is actually a really fun exercise that you can do where you can record a voiceover of yourself or your child. And then what's really fun is that Adobe Express will go in and create a character using that voice. I'm not going to click on this one for internet bandwidth purposes, but I highly recommend you explore it. There's a lot of really great things here with quick actions. And then as you scroll down, you'll see some more of the popular templates, seasonal templates, and we'll talk a little bit about add-ons, which I think is one of the greatest hidden gems of the new Adobe Express. And you have text to image, generative fill, where you can go in and make these edits, remove things within your images, and you don't even have to go into Photoshop. So it's really great. And one of the newest ones is text to template. So there's so much we can cover. And what I want to do is let's start with the brand kit. Because in order for us to create a lot more efficiently nowadays, we really need to be able to focus more on how we are intentional about our brand, the consistency, and not having to reinvent the wheel every single time because that's time that we lose, which means money that we lose. So to create a brand, I'm going to go to home. Actually, I'm going to go back to your stuff. And this is where all our files will appear. Under your stuff is where you have your files, your brands, and your libraries. So I have a ton of files and a lot of folders. And here, if we click on brands, I have a few for some for clients, some for our brand. And what I want to do is show you guys how we go about creating a new brand, which is fairly simple. We're going to click on the new brand. I'm going to get it a fabulous brand because that's super creative, right? So here, once we've created that, it's fairly straightforward. It gives you prompts. It tells you you can upload your logos on different files, especially for us that work with Illustrator files for when we create brand marks. This is really helpful to make sure that everything is crisp quality so we can upload those, add your own fonts. If you have licensed fonts, this is really helpful for you to add your licensed fonts. You want to make sure that you do have the license approval to use them in this type of realm. So make sure you read the license instructions or parameters as far as how you use your fonts. But you can also use Adobe fonts as well, which there is, I believe, over 25,000 fonts from Adobe fonts. And if you use that's if you use the Creative Cloud subscription or the Adobe Express Premium subscription. If you have the free version, it's 1,000 free fonts from Adobe Fonts, which is still a huge, huge thing. And you can upload your graphics, add your templates and colors. So let's just do a couple of things so that you guys can see what we can update. So I'm going to use from one of our brands that we've created, and I just selected an Illustrator file, adding this over here. And as you can see, it's starting to upload it. It's appeared here. Now, one of the things that I particularly love is for brand management. If you have more than one brand mark or more than one logo, you have typically your primary and then your secondary. So you can define with tags, which is your primary and your secondary. This is super helpful if you are handing this off to a client or you manage teams. You want to be able to define these for your audience. So that way it prevents going back and forth. And from what I've learned being in the industry for 20 years, even if you provide brand guidelines or a style guide, most often people won't be referring to them back and forth. So this is a really great way to reinforce brand management and consistency inside Adobe Express. With fonts, you can go in and select some of the fonts here. You can upload them over here from the upload button, or you can, let's see if it's going to let me show you. Once you click on that, it's going to prompt you to upload that. You'll see this window, and you want to make sure you acknowledge that you have the rights to use that licensed font. And if you don't, then you can go into more fonts, and that's going to show you all these other fonts that you can use from what is included in here. And I know the team is working on adding more as you see with this update. I'm sure there's going to be more graphics. If you have certain graphics, you can upload that. So within this brand kit, we have some icons and let me see, just some images that we want to add. And you can select as many as you want, add them all here. I'm just only going to add a few, and then you can customize your colors. So there's a couple of things that you can do when it comes to adding your swatches. You can either go to the custom tab to add the hex or the RGB colors, and then you add the values, the hex values that you might have here. So what I really recommend is that if you have your brand guidelines set up, use the hex values or the RGB values for consistency. So that way everything is consistent with the exact color values. If you don't have that, the other way to work with this is that if you, as you see here over on the far right, some of the brand kit is populating. So you can actually click on the eyedropper tool over here and go over to the areas where you have these colors. And I'm going to add another one, clicked on the plus icon. Now clicking again on the eyedropper, selecting another color, and let's just do one more. Let's go in and create this one. So now you see we have 3 colors over here. And what I want to do is just like we had with the brand mark, we can define primary and secondary colors. This is really, really powerful, especially when you use color strategically and leverage color psychology to use certain colors for certain types of content. This will really help you define that. What is your primary color palette and what is your secondary? So this could be your secondaries, could be accent colors, or you're running them for specific templates. This is super helpful. So let's say, for instance, this color is a secondary palette color and this one's primary. Let's put that one as a secondary. Now, as we look at them, we can see, okay, this one's primary, this is secondary, and that way we know a little bit more about how this brand is structured with templates. So ideally what you would do is set up your brand first and then you can go about creating templates, or you can click on create template like I just did. Let's go back so you can see create a template. And if you've already created something that you want to add to the brand kit, then you would be able to select that. And now once I selected that, then it'll give you this window where you can add the template name. So let's talk about brand strategy. Brand strategy carousel. Here's another big bonus that I really highly recommend for brand management purposes is adding a note. Add a note of how to use this particular file so that if you're having someone else manage this content, you are giving them important information. So think about this as an extension of your brand style guide or your brand guidelines. So you say, use this for our content that informs our audience about our services. And then it'll automatically put it into this fabulous brand. Then I'm going to click save on template. While I'm saving this template, I want to give a shout out to everyone who's been online. Thank you so much. Teresa, it's so great to see you here from San Francisco. I hope it's nice and warm there. It's kind of cold over here in Vegas. So thank you so much for joining me and being here. So once it's creating the template in the background, it takes a little bit, especially if you have faster internet, you'll see it much faster. My internet isn't so fast. So just be aware sometimes it might take a little bit longer depending on your internet bandwidth. Once that's ready, then it will show up under your template. So to not have you waiting, let me show you what it looks like on the brand that we have. So this is for our business brand. And we have here a variety of brand marks. We have our typeface that we have. And then we have all our graphics here, a ton of graphics and a lot of templates. This is where I say having those information or that information about how to use certain templates is really helpful. When you have a bigger company or you have a lot of assets to manage, this is really helpful to keep things aligned. So let's say if I clicked on this and I can click on preview, you'll see some of the information that I have for this template. Use this template for shorter carousel posts. No need to change the photos or icons unless we need to. Something very clear and forward so that way our team can start using this content. Now, I mentioned one of the really great things about this masterclass that you guys are in is that, oh, thank you so much, Teresa, for all the colors. Yes, we love colors here. So, one of the things that I particularly love, and this is a little hack, is that when you set up your brand kit, you'll typically see this in this way. This is how your brand kit will be set up, and you'll see that. But for those of us who have a small team or are collaborating with others, we might need folders to organize some of these templates. So I'm going to show you a little hack that if you go to the far right panel where it says group by, click on custom group, and I will show you how to do this so that you can see we actually have custom folders. So we have some for our YouTube templates, our reels, the reel covers, quote templates. Then we have a folder here for patterns, other design elements, carousel templates, and then here you see what isn't grouped. How do we do this? The way to do this is using your Creative Cloud library. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring you on the back end and take you to my Creative Cloud library. So if you don't have this, you need to download this to your desktop. This isn't something that you would be able to do with the free version of Adobe Express. You need to have the subscription. And I highly recommend considering getting the subscription. It's very affordable, especially if you compare it to Canva. When you add up all the free fonts that you'll get, all the videos and assets that you can use with Adobe Stock, it more than pays for itself. So I highly recommend it. So when you download the Creative Cloud desktop app, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your libraries. And because I have a lot of libraries, it takes me a little bit of a minute to find it. So found it. I found our brand, Nick Creative Design. Here's our library. So how you would go about organizing your files is here you see grouped by custom group. And this is where we can add a group, meaning it's that folder, and we can then start to organize all our elements inside these groups. This is what I was just showing you guys on Adobe Express. But in order for us to set this up, we have to do this through the Creative Cloud. So I'm here on the Creative Cloud app, and you can see here how when I was looking back at Adobe Express, let's go over here. I'm back on Adobe Express. It's the same exact setup. And you see here some that say not grouped. I want to show you what it looks like if I go into, let's bring this blog post into general brand templates. So I'm just clicking and dragging to the section where I have some of my general brand templates. Once I've done that, now you can see that it adds over here to this little group. Let's jump back into Adobe Express, and I might just need to refresh this so that we see that piece that we added to our general brand templates show up over here. And now we see that in this area. This is really helpful to keep your content organized and really just maximize your workflow. This is a super powerful hack for teams, people who are collaborating with others, so that way you can manage your content. Now, if you ever want to go back to just viewing the brand kit, how the standard way, just click on the brand. So you go onto this sort options over here, click on group by brand, and then you're good. If you are curious about grouping by type, it's just grouping by fonts, graphics, etc. It just kind of bulks things, very similar to the brand kit. It just doesn't necessarily include your logos like we have over here. So this is a really great way for you to organize your brand kit content and to be able to really maximize your workflow. I do have a glowing area over here for me, but I just wanted to show up and really encourage you guys to really take advantage of brand kits inside Adobe Express. It's going to maximize how you create content with your team. So let's go back to adding a little bit more stuff now. What does it mean to use some of these elements with Adobe Express? And how can we really maximize some of these features, these new features that we're seeing? So I want to show you something that I found to be very, very powerful with Adobe Express. And we're going to talk a little bit about add-ons. And what I want to do is I'm going to actually pull this collaboration that I did with one of my friends and fellow Adobe Express ambassadors, Goldie Chan, and her and I had worked on some tips for managing stress for creatives of color. So this was just some placeholder copy that we initially had before we started adding some of our copy together. And let me just kind of open one of the ones that we had done some work on. So when you are working in a collaborative mode, to invite someone, you're going to click on this invite link over here, and then you're going to add the email or the name of the person. What you also can do is you can actually provide a link. So you can click on add only the people who are invited. So essentially what that means is they need to have their email included in here so that they can only add or make edits to that file or collaborate with you. Or anyone with a link, meaning that if you want to share this as a public asset, so in the old Adobe Express platform that we were able to use, we used to be able to create a shareable or a remixable template. This is essentially the upgraded version of that. So anyone with this link, all you would need to do is select, you just need to, here we go. I'm working too quick. Let's go back. So you would just need to select anyone with a link and then copy the link. But before you do that, you want to click on what rights or usage you want to allow people to do with this file. So you can say they can edit or they can comment. So if you want it to be where they can edit, this is great. Or this is a really great thing. If you are building brand identities for your clients, then you can use the can comment so that you can send this to your clients for review. Instead of sending 100 different files for them to review or different PDFs, you can do it right inside Adobe Express, and they can go in and make comments and tell you exactly where they should make the changes. So this is how you would invite people to make edits and co-collaborate. So here on the far right side, since we have this open, I have some grouped elements, so we can go and double click on some of these elements to change them. We can select some of the copy, change to different fonts. This is all Adobe stock fonts or Adobe fonts. And every single element we have here, even on the background, these were some of the images that we were able to pull from elements. So if we go into elements, you have thousands and thousands of amazing assets that you can use for whether they're illustrations, overlays, textures, backgrounds with all sorts of beautiful textures, shapes, where this shape tool is really helpful. So there's a little bit of an update with shapes and icons. So icons is what we used to be able to use on the old Adobe Express, which pulls thousands of icons that you can click and just essentially just resize. So you'd be able to resize and then change the fill color. That's about as much as we could do with that. But with shapes, I really love shapes, and they don't have so many, but what you can do with the ones here is really powerful. So let's say I want to add a rectangle here. You can actually adjust the sizing, which is something that we aren't able to do with the icons. With these shapes, you can also add outlines or a border. So I would click on the border. Let's say I want to just add a white border so we can actually see it. You can adjust the roundness of this particular shape, adjust the border thickness. So you have a lot more control over how you use these shapes versus the icons. And that's how we use some of the elements over here to make these edits. So I highly recommend checking out Elements. There's a lot of design assets that you can pull from there, or design elements that you can search for. You can search in the main here, in the main area here for searching, or you can go through each section if you want particular brushes. There is so much to explore that we can't possibly cover that. But I wanted to give a highlight to some of those really great assets that you can use. And you can just, let's say we just want to add this metallic foil, you click on that and then it adds it right there to your design. I wouldn't particularly add it to this design, but I wanted to show you guys how quickly we can add these assets. Now, if you wanted to change your background color, at the very top, this is where we change our background color. So if we wanted to give it a different background color here, we can do that. Now, I'm sure you guys have noticed too, since we have our brand kit design over here, this is what we're using, and it's pulling all the colors that we had already set for this brand kit. If you want to adjust or use a different brand, let's say we want to use this fabulous brand we just created, we can go in here and now it loads those colors for us and we can start changing those colors. So that's a really great way for you to leverage that. Now, we're going to go in and talk about a little bit one more thing when it comes to using your brand identity. So here, for instance, let's say we did not have our brand mark here and we needed to add that. You would go to your stuff, go to brands and libraries. Once you have your brand kit set up, you'll see how it's divided into brands versus libraries, which is really helpful because I have a ton of libraries. And I'm going to go and find just our brand, Nick to Creative Design. And you see here, this is the same preview that we were seeing for the brand kit earlier. And I'm going to go in and find our brand mark, which I think it's towards the, here we go. And I am just going to, let's just add this one. And once it does that, it's going to give, it's a different version that we have. But once I do that. I just add that in there and boom, all working really great. Now, what I really love is that you see this little icon here that shows it's a linked asset. If by any chance you want to replace it, you can click on replace and you can find whichever other, let's say we wanted to use a different version. I can click on that, click on replace, and now we've replaced it. All I need to do is just make sure I adjust the size and we are good to go. This replace is fairly new. This is something that the team fixed, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for doing that. And we're able to easily add all our assets that way. Now, I want to show you guys the power of animations, but before we do that, because I feel that accessibility is so important for us, I really want to touch a little bit on add-ons. So if you click on the far left on add-ons, there are all sorts of add-ons over here that are being added continually. You can also request an add-on for the team to add. And you can just search through the tool here or look through the featured ones. I have already saved a few of my personal favorites, and I particularly love this color blindness checker because it simulates color blindness. So one of the challenges of when people try to create accessible content is that it's not just going to a third party website or somewhere else to see how your colors would work within different contrasts. So if you have a text color, you would typically put in the hex color for the text color and then the background color, and then that's how you would check for how the contrast would work. Here you have a visual representation of how each different color would appear for different view cases. So as I click through them, you can still see that what we have selected as far as the colors are still legible enough where people can see the icon. So for instance, here, a little bit in our brand mark, there might be some challenges for differentiation between a part of the hair here to a part of the moon. So this is a really, really powerful way for you to see how your content is perceived for people with color blindness. And you can keep clicking. And I love that it does this for your particular design. You don't have to go back and forth to use another party tool to figure out what works. Here, in this particular example, you can see that for this visual simulation, tree tanopia. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. You can see here at the very top with our type, this could pose some legibility issues. So this gives you insight as to how you can adjust some of your content to either increase the contrast between the background or making the type at the top have a lot more contrast behind that. So this is a really, really helpful visual simulator. And if you want to preview it in a much larger scale, you can click on the external viewpoint and do the same process throughout. So if you need to see it much larger, this is really, really helpful. So I highly recommend using this add-on to help you define your content. Another great thing that I would highly recommend is attention insight. So I know a lot of our audience isn't necessarily within the design field, and we do work with a lot of clients who aren't professional designers. They're mostly in marketing or they're running their own businesses, but they still want to create content. And when we hand off designs to them, even though we create the designs or the templates for them to be able to manage themselves, we still feel that there's great tools here in Adobe Express that can help you. So I actually want to go and let me see if I could find a better example of how we can look at this attention insight. So attention insight is essentially going to give you a heat map of how how your content will appear differently on different sizes. So let's see. Let's take a look at this one. This is an old one that I had done when I was trying to predict some of the colors or the color for Pantone 2024, which is peach fuzz. So for instance, let's go here and we're going to pull back the add-ons and we're going to look at attention insight. Then it's going to pop this window and it's going to ask you, what are you testing? If you're testing banners, posters, thumbnails, ads, a video frame, flyers. I'm going to select banners, posters, thumbnails, and ads. And what it's going to do is going to do that heat map for you. It's going to let you know where the attention is going to be the most define on. So this process may take a little bit, and sometimes it might be quicker depending on your internet bandwidth. But what's really helpful, it's going to show you this heat map. And this is really helpful for when you're trying to design thinking about hierarchy. So with hierarchy, you want to have some structure as far as what you want your audience to read first, second, and third. So here with this heat map, we'll see that the darkest key point of the heat map is over in this area, meaning right here, which is great because we essentially want people to read this part of this text. And then some of the attention will go here and then a little bit to my face. So if I had, let's say, content like this, and this is just an example because sometimes we get so excited and we want to add a lot of copy in a small space, which makes it really hard to read. I'm just going to test this again, test the design. When I do this, what's going to happen is this heat map is going to show us a much different viewpoint, meaning that it's going to show us a lot of a bigger section here with this that has the heat dispersed. So you can see here that the focus starts on my predictions and then a little bit here, and then it kind of gets lost. So what's happening is that if you have important information in these paragraphs, it's going to get lost because most of the attention is going to be here, my predictions, and then you start reading in this text. And because this text is so small, what's going to happen is that people will feel overwhelmed, especially as we're reading this on social media or our mobile device, that our brains are going to be like, this is too much, let's just move on. So you want to be very strategic as far as how you structure your information. Using heat map and this attention insight tool is really powerful for you to be able to leverage that in how you design your content inside Adobe Express. So let's see, let's go back here. So we kind of covered how we can use some of these elements. Let's go back to some of our other design here. And what I want to do is actually, I'm going to show you, let's take a look at some of my brands. So we're going to go back to a brand and I'm going to show you one of the templates that we've created for our reels, which uses some animations. Go back to custom group. This is why I love custom groups, because we have a lot of templates. So let's see, we have an animated series. So I'm going to go into this animated series tutorial. I'm going to click on start file. So once you have your templates inside your brand kit, you can do this really easily. It's going to take a minute to create that file for you. Once it's ready, it's opening it here for you. You can give it a name, but typically what it does now is that it actually uses the template name that you have and then the date, which is super helpful. And then here is our design. Now with this one, we have 5 pages, but what I've done is that I've actually created it all into one. So typically why we did 5 individual designs is that if we wanted to feature each page individually, but what I did was this really great hack, which we will focus on, for how you can create an animated reel. So if I click on play, I'll show you later timing, you'll see how it's combining all of those individual images or individual pages into one big master timeline with different scenes. So this way, we're able to edit our content much faster instead of how we used to do it, where we would create things in Adobe Express, then export it, then bringing into Adobe Rush, make a few more edits and jump back and forth. That was so much back and forth. Now we can all do this inside Adobe Express. So let me show you a bit of how we created this to give you some insight. So what I've done is that the very first scene is just a standard or static image or without any animations. The reason why is that whenever we are playing content and we want to add or we upload this, typically what will happen is that it'll start as the empty. So this is what you'll see, the pre-animation part. So it won't, on the preview of any social media platform that you upload your finished video, it won't show the fully laid out page, for instance. It'll start with this. So if I was to start my animations like this, then this is all people would see. And so as people are scrolling, there would be no information. So what we tend to do is that we add like a point 0.1 of a second with this that has no animation so that in the preview, it's working. Or the other way to do that is to just add this as a cover and just add it as a scene, and that's it, which is essentially what we did here. And then what you would do is, I'm just gonna, let's say we're gonna do this from scratch. We're gonna click on this one, on the three little dots, and we're gonna duplicate this. What it'll do is it'll duplicate that same exact scene. I'm just gonna extend my layer here. If you wanna see your layer timing, this is how you toggle this over here. And this is where you can go in and start creating animations. So you can multi-select different areas to make animations. And I'm going to make this, let's make this tumble. I kind of like the tumble effect. You can adjust the duration, how long or short you want this, how much of a rotation. Obviously, think too, you don't want to do too much jarring things because it could just be a little too much for people. I have the Adobe Express icon here, which I can animate. So essentially you can add all different animations. I can add this nice little wiggle effect, make it a little bit more intense so that we see this movement here. And for every element that you want to animate, you would just select that. Now, what I would recommend is building in some timing. So I'm going to extend my timeline a little bit more. And what you'll want to do is, let's say we have this here. That's what we want first. We can maybe just adjust this a little bit so it shows up a smidge bit afterwards. And then let's go to the Adobe Express logo. I want that to show up a little bit later. When I click the play, you can see how we have more of a timeline of each of these elements showing up one at a time, which is really, really helpful. And that's how you can start creating these elements. And then what we did here to create these next scenes, which is where we had some of that information show up, is that we essentially kept the same background. So we have this background here that we have attached to the background. And then we copy pasted these elements to each new scene. So you can click on, let's say we click on add a new scene, so that we can do that same effect. I'm just going to make my background color white. And what I would do is then just go here, and you might be able to copy C, Command C, Control V to, and I'm on a Mac. And this is how I was able to paste the page. But as you can see, it's not the same exact as how I had it over here. So we'll need to reframe it. If you click on reframe, then I can adjust the size so that it fits close to the other scene. The other way to do this is duplicate this again, delete every element, and then just keep the background so that you have it the same exact way. But for now, that's what we're going to do. Then I talked about copy pasting. So I'm going to again copy this. Let's go to this one. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit and zoom out a little bit more, or zoom to fit all. And then I'm going to click on this and click paste. If you notice that sometimes you're trying to click things to paste them and they won't paste, I found that sometimes if you select the background, you can paste on that element and add that in there. Now we can go in and add that there. And I want to show you guys one more really fun thing for how you can work with your content. So you're able to add linked assets. And for those of us that work in Illustrator, let's make sure we got this open. We are able to use a link asset, edit it in Illustrator, and bring it back on here. So let's say we wanted to add one of our fun alebrijes to our design over here. And what we're going to do is actually, I'm going to, so if we add this here, let's go into media, upload from device, and I'm going to upload my illustration. Let's see, where's okay. So this fun Phoenix Alebrije that I created, I love that whenever you're uploading a asset like Illustrator or Photoshop, you'll get this nice little pop-up that says it's going to be synced across all devices. It will show up with the white background just temporarily while it's uploading. This little icon here will tell you that it's being uploaded, but you will also see this here on the far left. Once that is done, then you'll get this that says that it's been added. And sometimes I find it takes a little bit. There we go. There's the background. It's being removed. So let's pretend that the background's a little bit darker because right now it's a little hard to see some of these elements. Let's kind of bring this down here. And we're going to just add that over here. And what I want to do is I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I need to change some of these elements. Now that you see here on this far left, open in Illustrator, I'm going to click open in Illustrator. And what it's going to do, it's going to take me to Illustrator, open this file that it's going to download because it's going to open that for me in Illustrator. And let's see. I don't know why I did that. All right. We're rolling with the punches. Okay. So for some reason, it won't let me edit this file. Typically, what would happen is I would be able to edit this Illustrator file, and then whatever edits I would make, then it would show up immediately on Adobe Express. But I don't know why that's happening. Sometimes these things happen and we roll with the punches. So the best way to do it is, if it would work, open in Illustrator. Then I would make my edits in Illustrator, save that file. And because it's linked with a Creative Cloud assets, it's going to show me a prompt here that says update file. And then I would have that updated. So what this means is that you don't have to go in and send anything to anyone else for information, additional information. This is how you would be able to do that. And what I really love about linking assets from Illustrator, not just because of the quality that you get, a much better quality, you can then start animating all of these elements. So if I wanted to make this, let's see, do this a little blob so it looks like he's flying. I don't know if I want to do it so intense. You can start adding some of these elements and then can make it rise so that as, I mean, look how great this is. And as we're creating this layers and timeline for our animation for a reel, we're able to have all of these steps in one go. And now, as you can see, all of these things are starting to really work together. So you're able to really maximize how you create content all in one place. So there is really, really great power to doing this and really kind of structuring your content in one timeline when it makes sense to create your videos, your reels. And what is really great about this is that you don't just have to stick to static images. Let's say this, for this particular section in my scene, I wanted to use a video. So I went to, so I have it selected, went to this icon to replace it, and I can actually search for videos, and it could either be photos or I can go to media, go to videos, and this is where I can use some of their, like the assets that are over here. Let's say I want to just change this one. And what I did is I selected to that video. I'm going to delete this one here. And now I can go in and place this. The video is in within my timeline. And I can then just play. And as you can see, now we have this video added in there. One last bonus thing that I really love is the capability to add audio, all inside Adobe Express. There's tons of different music that you can have here. You can also record your voiceovers as well. We used to do this a lot with Adobe Rush. We jump back and forth. Now we can do this all inside Adobe Express. And I can just look for some Latin music, find some really great music. Let's say this one's good. We click on add. You can adjust the volume in case you have a voiceover. This is a really great way to lower, and it is showing up. So this is a really great way for you to animate your content. Then the last thing that you want to do is you can share your file. And okay, here we go. You can share your file. So there's a couple of things. You can either invite someone else to edit. You can publish on web, schedule your posts. So these are really great benefits of Adobe Express, is the capability to share this across your social media platforms from Adobe Express. You can publish the link here. So if we want to publish this to the web, this is more for when you want to showcase this through Adobe Express, you'll be able to publish the link. And if we use this as a link, people would be able to preview this. So if I was to do that, it might take a little bit to do that, but it'll publish the design. People can see this live, and I'll get a link that I can share with people to preview. And then the other thing that you can do is you can schedule your post. So using Adobe Express, you can now schedule for your social media content, which is really great. You can add your captions here, select your channels. You just want to make sure that you connect all the channels that you want to use. And the team has added all these new great channels. They have a great partnership with TikTok. So this is really great. It'll upload your video. You're able to also add a cover if you need to, but with the hack that I showed, you don't need to do that anymore. And you can schedule when you want this to publish, or you can save it as a draft. And this is really great so that you can just stay in one place and not have to work with that. But if you want to schedule this yourself or you need to use it somewhere else, then you can always go to download, select the MP4 or whatever format that you're trying to select, and then click on download. If you are working with video, I tend to go for the 4K or 1080p for better quality, and then click on download. That's going to download your file, and then you're going to be able to use that anywhere. So there is a lot that I try to cover in this master class to really bring you up to speed and be able to take Adobe Express to a different level with how you manage your brand assets and leverage a lot of these new features that we have inside Adobe Express. One of the last things I want to cover, there's a couple of things that I want to share with you. Creating templates or designing templates can be overwhelming, or sometimes you just enter this creative rut. One of the new features that I think is worth exploring is text to template. Even though Adobe Express or the Adobe team has provided thousands of professionally designed templates that are really beautiful, or you might create some yourself like we do, this is really helpful. So if you go to text to template, you can actually give it a prompt and tell the AI, I'm trying to create a template for, let's say, what do we want to do? Let's go off the cuff. Create, create a template that talks about best business practices to stay focused. Okay, so you kind of give that, and then you can say use sans serif. Again, with AI and how we're testing these prompts, you just have to be testing and continually refining. And bold colors, which is very generic prompt for bold colors. But once you do that, you're going to click on generate. It's going to start bringing your content to life. It's going to pull from what you put in that prompt and start designing some of these or creating these designs for you. It's going to pull colors, design assets, all sorts of elements. It's even going to pull some stock images from Adobe Stock. So it's all building it all in one go. And you see here, focus for success. It's adding some content here for you, which is really smart. So if you're struggling to write copy, this is a really great way to leverage that. If you like some of these, you can look at variations, and then it's going to create more variations based on that one that you selected. And then you can find one that you feel aligns the most with your brand. Excuse me. So that's what's going to happen. And then I've been talking too much. Here we go. And you can see some variations, and you can select whichever one you want and then go in and adjust for your brand kit. So I highly recommend that you test those out. They are super, super helpful. But before we leave, I do want to share one last bit of insight. So after several years of having a hiatus with our business, with our YouTube channel, we are officially back on full force, and I'm super excited because my team has been working really hard to make this possible for the last few months, and we're just super, super excited to release that. So I want to share with you a quick example of what to expect. But on YouTube, you can see we have a dedicated playlist with 1 minute express tips on Adobe Express. And we're going to be launching these every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm sorry, every Tuesday and Friday. And we already have several videos there that you can check out. What we're really wanting to do is, because we've been doing this for a long time, we know that learning and how busy you are, we wanted to make these bite-sized content. So we wanted to make sure that it was easy for people to understand and watch these videos. So we're making them very focused, and they'll range from just quick starter information, or if you're just kind of new to Adobe Express, to some more like evolved hacks. We're trying to give a little bit of everything so that everyone can have something really great to learn from. So again, this is our YouTube channel at Nicte Creative Design. And let me show you a quick video of one of our tutorials from
In this
Adobe.
Minute Express on Adobe Express, I'm going to show you a hack on how to mass delete your folders. If you have a lot of files on Adobe Express, and if you're like me who has used it for over 7 years, here's some proof. How do you manage all of the files that you have and delete them? Because right now you can't mass delete. So I'm gonna show you a quick hack to do a workaround. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna add a folder. This is gonna be your hack. Click on add folder, and I'm just gonna say delete these. That way I know it's a folder where I need to delete all the files. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna go search through all the files that you need to delete. So let's say I wanna delete a couple of here where I was just experimenting, and I'm gonna hold the Shift key to do a multiple select, and then I can click on move, and I'm gonna find that file where it says to delete, move them over here, boom. Now what I can do is go into that to delete folder and start slowly deleting all the files that I've moved here over the years. Yes, it's not the ideal, but it's a great workaround so that you can merge things over. And if you want to, you can just keep the files there and wait for Adobe Express to make the official update where we can actually delete an entire folder. And that was 1 Minute Express on Adobe Express.
And that was our video. So hopefully the sound came through and you guys were able to see that preview, but this is a little bit of what we have coming for this year. And stay tuned for when we get to update the LinkedIn Learning course for Adobe Express so that it has more of this up-to-date content that we are covering over here. But I'm going to try and keep this very updated, and that's why we are using our YouTube channel to provide more updated content for you. So I am not sure, for those of you who are still here, if you have any questions. We do have a little bit of time for questions, so please drop your questions in there, and I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes if anyone else have questions. But if you're also watching the replay, please go ahead and ask those questions. I'll make sure we get back to you with some of insight or information that you can use. But again, you might have some of these questions that we answer in our YouTube videos. We do have a lot of really great hacks that we are sharing there. The hack where I showed you how to organize the folders inside using the Creative Cloud app, we have a tutorial already live on that shows you how to do that. So that way you can start, instead of rewatching the entire live stream, which would be great, but I know your time is precious, you have those resources in our YouTube channel to be able to watch. So I want to thank everyone who was here. Teresa, thank you so much for your comments, and for everyone else who has joined us. And for those of you that watch the replay, I hope that in this new year, you are able to maximize your content creation and really elevate your brand and how you connect with your audience. I highly recommend using Adobe Express. I may be biased because I've used them for such a long time, but I've seen the difference it makes not only for my team and our brand, but also our clients. It's been really powerful, and they're continually adding more and more tools that we can use. So thank you everyone who has joined. I appreciate you, and I will see you a la próxima. Until next time.